50 holes of yellow. It was a warm summer's evening. SpongeBob was out with his fiancée Hitler. The Krusty Krab was alive with sexual tension and sweat. SpongeBob and Hitler made eye contact and understood that neither of them were enjoying themselves. They left the club together and walked along the moonlit street. The ground was moist with evening dew. They walked past a homeless man with a 50 grand chain, and as they did so, SpongeBob turned to Hitler and said, "I've been thinking. This relationship has been wrought with problems from the start. It was all just meant to be fun and games, and then you took it too far, making me wear a kippur while I gassed you with a Dutch oven." SpongeBob stood still and looked at Hitler. A single tear welled up from the Fuhrer's glistening eye and fell to the floor. "Why would you do this to me, SpongeBob? Is there someone else, SpongeBob? Is it that Patrick? Don't fucking lie to me!" SpongeBob looked to the Fuhrer like a helpless dog to an abusive master and exclaimed, "It's curious, George." Fuhrer spent that evening with his friend Anne Frank in her attic. He couldn't repress his desire for the touch of another person, the feeling of his body against another. He spent the evening trying to encourage a situation where he and Anne would be alone and that he could express himself. His passion was burning at a temperature akin to that of a volcano's lava, hot, sticky and pungent. However, he knew too well that when you play with lava, someone always gets burnt. Finally, they were alone together, sat in the attic playing Dungeons and Dragons. Hitler reached his hand over to Anne and placed it onto her lap. Anne looked scared but confident. "Mein Führer, I'm sure that you don't want this. You just want compensation of your feelings towards SpongeBob. Please try and make it up with him. It upsets me seeing you so desperate for the love of another when you were so in love with that moist, squidgy sponge boy." The Nazi had an epiphany of his love for the sponge creature, and he thanked Anne and left promptly to surprise his one and only. Despite the cold, misty air, Hitler was burning with hot, passionate sweat, which resembled that of a warm shower of love. The desire of being adored haunts Hitler like a phantom that goes by the name of SpongeBob. As the empty shell that was once king of the Nazis stumbled towards the towering pineapple under the sea, he remembered the taste of the sponge love and desired to feel the presence of his spongy goodness in or around his mouth. He raised his hand, quivering, and knocked thrice on the door, each knock resonating through his very being. The harsh metal door loomed over him. He heard footsteps on the other side of the door before feeling the rush of warm air inside the house. He stood there, face to face with his one true love, and dropped to his knees. "I love you, SpongeBob! I will do anything for you! Tonight, you are the Fuhrer, and I am the quivering Jew!" Hitler was cut short, and he saw between SpongeBob's spindly yellow legs a figure of another, a monkey. It was him, George. Curious George. Hitler was overcome with primal feeling of passion and anger. Hitler launched himself at his old primate friend. However, he was not quick enough, as SpongeBob had already separated them both like the Berlin Wall. Hitler exclaimed, "You Jew! You are nothing to me!" For the second time that traumatizing night, the Fuhrer was swept away with so much pain, he began to cry. At this point, the salt water had become overbearing as Hitler stood in the seabed at disbelief that he had realised that he was lacking the ability to breathe. The King Nazi did not have gills. Sudden panic on set before he realised that he'd prefer die than live with what he had just witnessed. Hitler collapsed and the world went black. It ain't over. It ain't over. Lights swirling around, silence, disorientation. Hitler did not know where he was. Was this help? As he adjusted to his senses, he realised something was in his mouth, something yellow and spongy. SpongeBob stroked his face in a reassuring way, and Hitler was calm once again at the feel of his lover's hand on his body. He slowly came around to understand why SpongeBob was in his mouth. He was allowing him to use his body as a rebreather. He was breathing through SpongeBob and using his body as an oxygen tank.
Hello. Just a quick editor's notice. All of this, this fanfiction is a little bit too rude for YouTube, so I'm just gonna skip across to the funny bits. So, enjoy. Sorry if you wanted to hear the whole thing. I'm sure if this gets enough recognition, I'll release an entire version. 50 Holes of Yellow, written by Elliot Parmenter. Yeah.
If you're new, a hidden Nazi technique, it involves lots of spit and playful biting of the 69 million. I'll show you why it's better under the sea. Up and down the length of his rubbing the swastika he had tattooed on his back. Pineapple I was like a brick. It's an infant directly in their stupid face. And the monkey smiled a wide grin and shouted in the monkey's first language, "Bullseye, you!" He just whispered, "This is." And with every thrust the monkey roared, "U.S.A.!" The smell of the room altered from passion and sweat into copper and sulphur. It wasn't written by me. Didn't enjoy reading it. The writers, although creative, they were. I was there while they were actually writing it. I took no part in writing it, but that's the first time I've read it in a while, and fuck.